British backpacker Emma Jackson fell in love with the Cape York grazier over a decade ago. As city living faded, she settled in to living in a house with no windows or doors, snakes, dingoes in the kitchen and cyclones. When personal tragedy touched her family, she was determined to raise awareness about mental health. Cairns reporter Sexton-McGrath joined her and hundreds of others on a tough trek across the Cape.
It's the little bush shack written into folklore through song.
Just above the Archer, where the wild scrub cattle roam, there's a little wisp of smoke in the air. Granny Dawn will greet you just as sweet as apple pie, with a cake and king-size kettle on the boil. She drags the rusty gate with a welcome in her eye. She loves her little gunya in the gully.
But Granny doesn't live here on Wolverton Station in the middle of Cape York anymore. These days, it's a girl from Manchester in the United Kingdom. But Emma Jackson is no withering English rose. She's had to become as tough as the landscape around her. There's mustering to be done, a recalcitrant bullock to yard.
Come on, you know you want to.
The daily lick run, feed to be put out, horses that need tending to, pigs, chickens and dogs to be fed. Then it's back to the gunya to feed this hungry lot. It's not even 8 a.m. She's a long way from Manchester's city lights.
So I came over, I think it was 2002, as a backpacker into Sydney. Spent 6 months in Sydney, living the high life, a couple of jobs, and yeah, just a big party scene. Then travelled up the East Coast, ended up in Cairns with wouldn't have had 50 cents to my name, completely skint. And then managed to stay at a backpacker and backpackers and said I'd do a bit of work and pay them. So I got a bit of hospitality work, and then saw an ad for a job in the Cape. Where are you putting him? Oh, you're going to push him back?
Yeah.
Righto.
She ended up working at the busy Archer River Roadhouse, where she met her future husband, grazier Neville Jackson, who owns the nearby Wolverton Station, along with his brother Kevin just up the road.
Neville and Kevin have both got an incredible connection to the landscape. And being from North Manchester, which is concrete, you don't see that. So I think the people, the region, the community, and then the family were incredibly attractive. But yeah, certainly a spark with Neville.
Wolverton Station is smack bang in the middle of the Cape. The nearest supermarket is a 3-hour drive north along the dusty, corrugated and often flooded Peninsula Development Road. 2 of Emma and Neville's 4 children are homeschooled on the property. Before arriving in Australia, Emma studied psychology and has since become a qualified teacher to help give her kids a good start in life.
Righto, tell me about your shapes. Tell me all about them.
They all live very simply together in what they fondly call their gunya in the gully. It took the city girls some getting used to at first.
So being a concrete girl, so with walls and doors, it's very much open. You've got no windows. It's curtains instead of doors. Nothing's really sealed. You've got cockroaches, toads, snakes. Feral animals can get in. You woke up one day and there was a bloody dingo on top of my stove licking the frying pan.
Life in the bush isn't without its challenges. The station can be cut off for months at a time during the far north Queensland wet season. Cyclone Trevor tore across the area in 2019. Then there was the time that Emma's son, Ryan Jackson, woke to find a 3-metre carpet python wrapped around his hand. He was bitten hundreds of times and had to be flown 700 kilometres south to Cairns for treatment. But that all paled into insignificance when tragedy struck the Jackson family. Emma's 18-year-old nephew, Dylan Jackson, took his own life on a family property. That was 7 years ago. Dylan's mum, Debbie Jackson, still struggles to understand why her boy, with the wicked sense of humour and beautiful soul, decided to end his life.
Our world fell apart. Our lives had all changed, so yeah, in just one split second, he was gone, and it's shock, denial. Why did he do it is probably the biggest thing, and then it's pretty shit actually.
She says he found life on the cattle property difficult at times.
He struggled a bit with it, but that was with the Asperger's because the sounds of the motorbike and everything would start to make them feel a bit daunted and confusion would set in.
The family sought professional help for Dylan. Debbie left wondering if more could have been done.
As a mum, you reflect back through the whole childhood, thinking, where did I go wrong? What could I have done differently? This day that we had this big fight, did I say something that could have made it like this? And but you can't. You go through it because that's part of the motion that you go through.
The Jacksons decided Dylan would never be forgotten.
I just said to Emma that it'd be good to honour him in some way, because suicide is such a it's got such a stigma to it.
So you've got all this feeling and all this emotion. What do you do with it? Do you carry it? Do you sit with it? What do you do? Do you let it change you, or do you put it into something? Do you inject it into something? And so a few of us put our energy and feelings into Conquer the Corrugations.
Emma Jackson started the Conquer the Corrugations charity walk a year after her nephew passed away in 2015. Back then, around a few dozen people, mainly family friends, turned up for the arduous 42-kilometre, two-day walk along the Peninsula Development Road from Coen to the Archer River Roadhouse. This year, 250 people have turned up. Emma Jackson, emotional about the huge response.
I feel like crying, oh my God! Oh my God, how many mistakes?
A quick happy snap to mark the event.
I think we can get a bit sillier than that. Come on, everyone! Conquer! Yep.
The participants come from all walks of life, including this group, who have travelled hundreds of kilometres from the remote Indigenous community of Napranum in Western Cape York to take part. They're here to remember their brother, uncle, cousin and friend, Jeffrey, who took his life around 8 years ago. Janita Motton is Jeffrey's sister. It's her fourth Conquer the Corrugations.
Every time we come to this event, it's very touching and just overwhelming, just with the support that I get here. And having all my family with me is awesome. Just having them here, it's great, and we enjoy it. And just listening to everyone else's stories it's very touching and very just touching.
After a quick group photo, the walkers head off. It's a colourful group. There's the bride, a cyclist that weaves in and out of the crowd blasting tunes on a tiny speaker, a mum with a double pram, and even a barefoot walker. One group sits atop their trusty steeds. Meanwhile, a police officer does his best to slow oncoming traffic as the group snags for hundreds of metres along the road, the main route connecting Cairns to the tip of the country.
It's mid-morning and temperatures are already in their mid-30s, but the road feels significantly hotter than that. This walk is meant to be challenging. It's all about building resilience in Cape York communities.
It's just over halfway on day one, and the heat is clearly getting to some.
It's disgusting.
What's disgusting about it? What's
the
it like?
heat, but it's fun.
It's just hot. There's no wind.
The music's fun.
I'm finding it tough.
It's good. I love walking, but yeah, it's hot. I grew up in Canada, so this is a lot hotter.
I think about my nan who suffered depression terribly in her life. And yeah, all the corrugations represent tough parts of your life. Then you'll have a dip, then you'll have a dust hole. That's what life is. Sometimes you have smooth sailing on the bitumen. But yeah, the road's very sort of similar to life, I think.
The Royal Flying Doctor Service run an outreach program that delivers mental health professionals to remote Cape York communities. They're very supportive of the walk.
And it's events like these that really does challenge that stigma and helps people realise that they're not alone, and it's okay to not be okay, and it's also okay to reach out for some help and support.
The walk is transforming lives.
I've heard it probably half a dozen times where someone has said to me, Emma, Conquer the Corrugations saved my life. And they've been at a point of near end and Conquer's saved them. It's almost been like their last straw.
Emma Jackson wears many hats, and despite not being from around here, the girl from England has very much become not only part of the fabric of Cape York, but also one of its greatest champions. She chairs both the local Cape York Natural Resource Management Group, as well as more than a dozen other NRM groups across the country.
Hi Tony, hi Justin, hi Rosanna. Thank you. So yes, I'm actually a bit sweaty, so excuse me, it's suddenly changed weather overnight up here. The wind's dropped and it's hot.
She's come a long way from the backpacker who rolled up at a roadhouse looking for work 17 years ago. She loves living in the gunya by the gully.
I enjoy that you own your day. You own your life, you own your decisions, and you choose every morning you get up, you choose your day. And I also enjoy the pace. So I love having the space. I love the animals and the openness. I love that my children get to grow up, adapt into city life and bush life. You know, there's so much to be done and so much we can do.
Just when you were thinking that the good old days were gone, there's Granny's little gun, you're in the gully.